This is Kelly Nowak. I am interviewing Mary and John Schmierer at 5716 41st Street in Thurston Woods on June 22nd, 2012. So to begin, if you could just give us a little biographical information about yourselves, your family, what you do, when you came to this neighborhood, anything you think is relevant.
Well, I'm actually originally from the Quad Cities area in Iowa and Illinois along the Mississippi River. And I came to Milwaukee in 1998 to go to grad school for social work at UWM. And was here for a couple years and then moved to Chicago for about 18 months and found that I really missed Milwaukee and the size and just the people. So I ended up moving back here and I've been here ever since. And decided I had to move out of my apartment in Washington Heights, and I was trying to think of the dates earlier today. It must have been 2004. And I think I just was looking for setting more roots up, and at that time, like, a relationship wasn't really coming together for me, so I felt like I'm young and single, and I feel like I got to move to the next chapter, and if marriage isn't happening, I'll just kind of do it on my own. So I was a social worker for the state at the time and was able to afford a house in this neighborhood, and kind of fell in love with this house. It just seemed like the right one for me. So I purchased it in early 2005. And then a year later I met John, and everything changed, and we met in January of 2006 and were married by the end of 2006, and we just kind of made it our own. I mean, I think that's when this really started to become more of a home, where it's just my house. So now actually I'm a teacher with MPS in special ed, and we have Ben, who's 2, and yeah.
Yeah, and for myself, I born and raised in Milwaukee. Not a ton of backstory, but my parents had always been self-employed. They owned a glass business for quite a long time, which I worked for a little while. And then I went to the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design for 3 years. And then my dad had a stroke, so I ended up kind of stopping that and working their business, trying to keep that afloat. And then one thing led to another in a strange set of events, and I ended up owning a dry cleaners. So I did that. I worked actually for them for like 10 years, and then I owned it for another 5. The last year and a half, I think, is about when I met Mary.
Of owning the business.
Yeah, exactly. And after the economy kind of took a downturn, I sold the business and went back to school, finished and got my degree in industrial design, which I'm still looking for a position in. But yeah, and then we met in 2006 through Match.com, which is kind of our little interesting story.
Yeah.
So I think we've both been on there for a while, and it worked out.
It was more fun. Never thought we'd actually. I never thought I'd meet my husband on Match.com.
Right, exactly.
But
right, so.
So yeah.
So yeah, and that kind of brings us to today, and
Yeah.
Great. You mentioned moving here in 2005.
Yep.
What drew you to the neighborhood? When you were looking at houses, what made you think Thurston Woods was the right place?
Honestly, I can't say that I knew about Thurston Woods before I started looking. It really became a matter of affordability, just being a single woman, and also it seemed like out of a lot of the neighborhoods and houses that I looked at, that this was the house that was not only affordable but most move-in ready, and in a neighborhood that I felt adequately safe in. Whereas there were some other neighborhoods where it was like I knew I wouldn't feel safe, and this felt, it wasn't like my ideal, but it felt like it could certainly work. And so, and I like I said, I fell in love with the house. There's a quaintness to it that I loved and still do, and it just felt like it was the right fit, just for what I was looking for at that time in my life. Yeah. So.
As after you moved in, did you continue to enjoy the space and the neighborhood? And
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the neighborhood. I mean, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I should say, that's another thing that's great about this neighborhood is just the mature trees, and like you don't necessarily get that in all neighborhoods in Milwaukee. And we love Havenwood State Forest. That's like a diamond in the rough that not enough people know about. And even in this neighborhood, it doesn't feel like enough people know about it and utilize it. But we love that we can go take walks over there. So I think it's almost bittersweet in some ways, the neighborhood, and we love so many things about it, like the what it looks like, Haven Woods. We are so fortunate to have neighbors really close to us across the street and on the sides of us who we like and who we feel like there is a sense of looking out for one another. But at the same time, there is a larger sense of there's some crime in the neighborhood that it's unsettling, and we worry about it. And it's sometimes, if we could move and afford something else, we probably would. And I think that's the bittersweet in it, is that there are some really great people here, though, and some beautiful things about this neighborhood. But sometimes some of the elements and the safety in the neighborhood make us say, that's not enough. So, yeah.
I see what you mean. You mentioned Haven Woods, and that's actually something that one of our groups is focusing on.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you do there, how you use Haven Woods?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we just yesterday morning we went and took a walk over there with Ben and Maggie here. It's just when you get inside the park, it's like you're not in the city anymore, and that's what's really nice about it. It's almost like going up north to a degree. You have a little tranquility over there. It's quiet. I do as much as I can. I do bird watching, and I love going over there. There's tons of species of birds and things, so I do that from time to time. There's ponds over there just to sit, and there's a bench, and it's just very peaceful. So but we do a lot. I'd say the majority of stuff we do there is taking Ben and Maggie for a walk and just
exercise, just peace, getting away. And just learning. John knows a lot about nature and birds, and just just going over there and on walks, I'll learn stuff about nature and different animals and
plants.
Plants. And we want Ben to kind of have that sense of nature and learning and exploring, and so. And
they have community gardens over there too, which we've always been interested in. And I think this year maybe it really pushed us over to say, hey, we should probably sign up for that next year, because we just started a little garden here, and it's fun, and it'll be nice to enjoy that later. So.
And I think as Ben gets older, we'll probably utilize the programming more at Haven Woods. They have some good kids programming through the state park system, and so.
That's interesting. You should mention the community gardens at Havenwood, because I think Agape is also starting a community gardening project this summer. Yeah,
well, actually, we were kind of approached to. We were kind of involved with it's the one over on 40th in terms of. It kind of seemed like it was difficult to get someone to step up and take it on, and. So, and I think Agape kind of took that leadership role, maybe because no one else did the past couple years, but I think it's even been hard for them to get it going, because it's just, I don't know if it's a thing about getting the information out to the right people, or if they're just, maybe there's a lack of knowledge about even how to garden, but I think there is some element of maybe not enough people to just really get involved and work it consistently, but
Do you have a lot of interaction with the Agape Center and the community as a whole, or is it mostly your smaller neighborhood here?
I think it's a little bit of both. We've went to Agape probably more in the past year than we ever have, mostly because of voting, and it's our polling place now. And we did the where we heard about you guys with where the free plant giveaway. So we did that. We've had more some connection with Agape for the Black Watch. We were Black Watch captains for a couple years, and through that we I've become good friends with a couple women who live over like 7 blocks, still in the Thurston Woods neighborhood, but they have a very active Black Watch over there on the east side of 35th. And then Liz Hammer, who works with, she's kind of like a liaison between the Black Watches and all the and District 4 Police Station. The 4 of us have really formed a nice friendship, and like we're having dinner tonight, and we're very connected about the neighborhood and kind of what's going on and those sort of things. And then we obviously care and keep in touch with, you know, our neighbors kind of on both sides of us across the street who we bought the house from. We've, you know, got a nice relationship with. You know, we're glad they're here, and I think we feel like their kind of expectations and values for the neighborhood match ours. And that's important to feel like you're not alone. You know, so
What does, just for my own edification, what does the Black Watch program, what does that entail? What do you do?
well, when we were doing it, it involves really handing out flyers to try to keep people involved, like setting up an email loop, just knowing neighbors more. I think prevention, education on how to keep safe, how to reduce crime, and also, I mean, we approached it, and I think we approached it more from that sense of just keeping our neighborhood safe and helping people understand maybe what they can do if they feel like there's a neighbor or a tenant in the neighborhood that is not matching their expectations. Like, how do you go about problem solving through that, and working with the different community partners like the police and Department of Neighborhood Services, you know, the aldermen, and then actually bringing people together in meetings to kind of hear from those people and what to do. But we really struggled with getting involvement in that, and it really felt like it became more of just John and I doing everything, and you know, always being the one having to hand out the flyers and set up the meetings, and just no reciprocity kind of, and not huge turnout. It would typically be the same, you know, few people, and so it's now at this point where I wouldn't say that we're active. It's more we keep in touch with those connections we've made, and we kind of, if there's an issue, like, we'll talk right in here and we'll do stuff about it, but it's not so much the broader whole 41st, and we even tried all of 42nd. We don't do as much of that broad stuff. But if we chose to, we certainly know, I think, how to go about it and who to call. Yeah. So.
Are the people surrounding you here, are they all homeowners or?
Yes. Yep.
Renters, yeah.
Yep. Homeowner. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, like on either side of us, and in that way, either side of us, there.
There's a couple renters
there's a
across
couple,
the street.
You know, 2 houses down, but I mean, our close by is.
Yeah,
they're
but pretty close by, it's all homeowners, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. We were talking a little bit about the Thurston Woods neighborhood in general. Do you find that you can spend a lot of your time in the neighborhood, like with shopping or going out to eat, or do you go outside the neighborhood for that?
I would say that we mostly go outside the neighborhood, just because there's not a ton of stuff in our close vicinity. I mean, you know, anything east to like Port Washington, you know, in that area, Glendale. And we don't really go west much.
Yeah.
There's not much west.
Because it doesn't feel to us like there's a lot of, like, we would love to support, you know, local small community businesses, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of businesses that are, you know, felt like they're small, locally owned, but that we would even be interested. It feels like they're the little they're bars, the convenience stores, there doesn't seem to be a lot here. And then just in terms of more corporate big box things, or even grocery shopping, there really isn't something like that close.
Right.
I mean, there's this Walmart that's going to open up down Silver Spring. Not that we really go to Walmart a lot, but that feels like the first kind of big thing that's somewhat close to us.
Yeah, and I would say for me, I think for us that is kind of a down part for us for the neighborhood, because I think those little places to us give a sense of community and belonging, and we don't have much of that. Not that the places that we would participate in. So yeah, but.
So we spend a lot of time in our yard, but even there are times when even just being out here, it seems sometimes it can be difficult just because loud music, what we perceive to be drug selling going on very close in the neighborhood. Like, there are things that take away from kind of our quality of life, even in our little space here that we love so much. So, yeah.
Can you think of anything maybe we missed?
Sure. Well, I mean, you talked a little bit about, I really like the description of the sort of bittersweet nature of your relationship with your neighborhood and where you're living, and you can definitely see that you do love it here in so many regards. But one thing that you mentioned was safety, and that's been a common theme for a lot of people. And if you want to just maybe elaborate a little bit as far as if you feel like it's even changed since you've been here, or if it's been pretty consistent, and just sort of maybe what the concerns might be.
That's hard. It seems like it ebbs and flows. I guess I think there's a greater sense of safety since we moved in, like in terms of a positive, better, in terms of we're more connected to our neighbors, that I didn't have maybe the first 2 years. The first year I was here alone, and then the first year we were married.
Right.
And actually, I think what brought us closer to our neighbors was that we started the Block Watch.
Right, I was going to say that. I mean, I don't think I've ever lived anywhere where, I, went to everybody's door and, said hi and introduced. I mean, you just get to know, even if you don't have a relationship with them, you get to know them. You know that they know you. Yes. And that was actually really nice. So that was positive
about the Block Watch, is even if they aren't lasting connections, we do kind of have a sense, I think, of knowing who's on this block. And but unfortunately what spurred that was across the street a woman was murdered in the middle of the day. She was killed inside the house, but got out of the house and died pretty much on the front lawn. And I came home from work one day, and we had police tape up in front of our house because they extended the crime scene. And it was someone that she knew. For a while they thought it was actually a family member who lived in the house, and it ended up not being. But that person also was not apprehended right away. So there's also that element of, even though they were, I think it's, a lot of times the police say, you don't need to worry because they knew each other. But it's like when it happens in your neighborhood right across the street, it's just about the fact that you don't want, even if the family knows someone like that, you don't want people coming into your neighborhood who are capable of killing you. Right. And so there was a lot of fear, I think, for me, for us, just that happened literally right across the street, that there were children home in the neighborhood. There were neighbors who saw stuff that day and actually moved after that, because I think that really changed their life in a way, what they saw that day. And so, and then we've had other shootings over the past couple years, and, there was just one last week at 11 a.m., just
on Thurston and 40th.
40, which is just 3 houses diagonally from us. We heard the shots. We thought it was fireworks.
Right. And having our son now just ramps up all that stuff. Like, that's not where we want him to grow up. And, for our safety and for his safety, and just,
So
what goes on.
it's just hard because do we feel more connected than ever to like the District 4 police, and they call us back when we call, the squads. I mean, we're so appreciative because it seems better, but it still doesn't seem enough, and it still seems it feels like so much in Milwaukee in terms of crime is very incident focused, and I think that's because of the, I'm sure that's because of funding, that's because of numbers of crime. Like I get all those reasons why that we kind of only respond to, I think, really violent incidents, but there's a lot of, I think, low level things like drug dealing going on right in our driveway, in our alleyway constantly, that are really important to us and really affect our safety on a day-to-day basis, that isn't maybe as valued to other people and even the police on a day-to-day basis because they're so busy dealing with putting out the fires. But we just feel like it's these things that lead to the fires. And so it's hard to say. It ebbs and flows in terms of when we feel safe and when we don't feel safe.
Right, and it's always this. I always feel like it's this false sense of security. It's like, everything's going okay, but it's always something's going to happen.
Right, that something
and it
could
does.
happen.
Right.
Do you feel as though, what is the role that the city plays? Maybe, I know you've mentioned the Department of Neighborhood Services, but how about your alder people, your aldermen? Has that been the same person since you've lived here? Or?
Alderman Hamilton, and we've certainly had interaction. He's came to our Block Watch meetings. We've interacted with him after the floods a couple summers ago because we took water in. He's helped us with some issues. Who we find is the most proactive and responsive, though, is our connection with the woman who's the liaison between the police department and the Block Watches. Like, she's extremely well connected to aldermen, DAs. She is very respectful of your confidentiality. So she's really the person who we feel is the most responsive. But yes, we've worked with Alderman Hamilton before, and he has been the same alderman the whole time.
Is that Ashanti Hamilton?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So one thing that's also important, and we had to do the same thing in our last review and kind of refocus and come back to, is being here and moving here and living here, you become a part of this community.
Yeah.
And your history and your past and your family's past comes with you. And so if you want to just maybe elaborate, each one of you, a little bit more on your upbringing, maybe what your parents did a little more, and anything maybe where you lived in Milwaukee before you came to live in Thurston Woods. So just because we want to make sure to capture your stories too, because you're a big part of what Thurston Woods is now.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of interesting because I grew up on 67th in Silver Spring, roughly.
Okay.
And I, never thought that I would be back here.
And you started school at Kluge.
Yeah, I went to school.
Through
third grade or second grade, I guess, at Kluge. And like I said, my parents owned their own business, auto glass business, for about 25 years. And they moved from the place here in Milwaukee to West Dallas. So that's where I spent most of my childhood was there. Ben, stop. Come on, Ben.
Come over by me. Bring your car.
Then we moved to West Dallas. So I lived there for 20 some years. Went to high school at Nathan Hale. So I'm a Nathan Hale alum. And like I had said, I went to college for about 3-4 years at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, and in I think it was 1994 or 1993, my dad had a stroke. He went in for some heart bypass surgery, and it was a physician. His physician was supposed to change his blood thinner medication, and didn't, and he ended up having a stroke because of it. So that was a big part of my recent history. He suffered the stroke in '94, and he passed away in 2000.
And really not so recent. I mean, a significant part of your life.
Yeah.
You were a teenager when that happened?
Yeah, just
20?
yeah, right around there.
To just 3 years ago? When did he pass away?
In 2005, because he was at the
Right.
he was at our
Right.
wedding, so 2006. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean,
And
he was sick, really sick, like immobile. His mom, John's mom, stayed by his side. They stayed married. She took care of him. You both took care of him in the house for several years.
yeah, I mean, my mom really, to say she was dedicated was, would be cutting that very short.
Because he was paralyzed.
Yeah, I mean, well,
from-
it was a downhill progression. He came home and he could walk, but he could walk with a limp, and then he had another stroke, and eventually he ended up to be a quadriplegic, and just went, as far down as you can go.
Right.
And for, quite a few years, my mom took care of him at home until it was just beyond her scope, and he ended up going into a nursing home. But I always feel when I look back at that, or I think about him, that I missed out a lot on that, because that was the time, when I was older and we could start to have a relationship, more, to get to know each other, so to speak, in an adult fashion. So that's difficult for me, and that was a hard. During the whole time, it was very difficult to see him and see my mom and how they struggled. But when I look back on it now, with having a son now, it's just like, it'd be really nice to share a lot of that stuff with him, and so that's probably been the biggest hardship that I've gone through recently, or ever.
And when you were little, your dad worked a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't around a ton because, as a small business owner, it's
Right,
it's
it's different
24/7
time. Yeah,
really,
right.
and he wasn't a super touchy-feely guy.
Right.
So
So I think I see that in John as a father now, just his respect for that relationship and the care and time he puts into that with Ben. And I think it's been a double-edged sword of, it was so great that he went back to get his degree in industrial design, because I think that was another thing he lost kind of from his dad getting sick, because he had to stop going to school to help take care of the family.
Right.
So that was a huge celebration when he graduated, and obviously that's where his passion is, that's what he's great at. But not finding a job has allowed us to keep Ben out of daycare, which really wouldn't be something we could afford anyway, full time. But just it's allowed us for Ben to have a stay-at-home parent, and I see the connection and the relationship they have. John stays home during the day and then goes to work, when I get off from school at FedEx.
Yeah, FedEx.
So we swap. But I see that bond that they have, and I think it's a testament, I think, to who John is. But it's also because of what he went through with his dad, and I know what he values, and it's been in that relationship, and so I think we both have things from growing up that we are very still aware of. Not that it's we stay focused on it, but it's always kind of there in terms of what we're trying to make happen for Ben. And I think for me, I was raised by a single mom. She had 5 children, and I'm the youngest, and I have 4 older brothers. And my father I have a complicated family story. My father is Mexican. he actually had dual citizenship when he met my mom, and they both worked at the same bus company. And so my dad, though, had another family in Mexico that my mom really didn't know about till later. So I have 7 sisters in Mexico, and then 1 brother who was also in the Quad Cities area where I grew up at, but a huge age difference. Like even my mom's 5 children, my oldest brother was 30 years older than me.
Oh.
At least 20 in the 20s older than me. And then the same on my father's side. Like I currently have siblings who are probably in their 60s, close to. So my father only came around occasionally when I was little. I've actually gotten closer to that side of the family as an adult. But my mom was an extremely hard worker. She didn't pick the best guys in her life to have as a partner. And so she was alone a lot of the time raising the 5 kids. And so when I grew up, when I was really little, she worked a ton. I remember her working a lot, just being tired when she came home. Like I always knew she loved me, and she really instilled in me a sense of, I think, working hard, and she really wanted me to do better than her, and I always got that sense from when I was very little. And she instilled in me to go to school, to stay in school, whereas my older brothers all really struggled in life with school and prison, alcohol, just a lot of issues. And so I always got the sense, and I appreciate that in my mom, that she wanted something different for me. And but she got sick when I was, maybe in 6th grade. She started just having failing health issues. I think started out related to just a really hard job of driving a huge bus all day, and the physical toll that just takes on your body and the sedentary nature of it. And she eventually was diagnosed with heart problems, cardiomyopathy, and she passed away when I was 16. And so after that, I moved in with my aunt and uncle, and I think from what I've taken from that is there were some things in my childhood that were really hard, and I think there were times when I didn't feel safe when I was little, and I think that kind of all comes back to why safety is so important to me here. Because having been, I think it puts it into perspective, kind of the hard things I went through as a child, whereas I think it's always kind of been like, well, yes, I know some difficult things I went through, but I'm okay, and I can move on from them. But I think being a mother, I realize now how kind of messed up some things were, and how I don't want Ben to have that experience, and I know that he's not, and that makes me really happy and proud that he is experiencing 2 parents who really love him, who are there every day for him, who have energy to spend time with him, and really watch out for him and who he's around. And so I think that's, again, all these things that kind of tie into what we try to do for Ben every day here in this house. Like the sense of family,
Right.
the sense of togetherness, the sense of feeling safe.
Right. And and I grew up with 2 parents and didn't have that experience that Mary had, but I've so much learned to respect it from her point of view, and and to enjoy that, those things with Ben and not take them for granted, so.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't know, I hope we value those simple things, like eating together, or cooking together, or being spending time in the yard, or going for a walk in Haven Woods. I think we just keep in perspective how important that is.
Yeah,
and I think because we both lost our parents at a young age, in a way,
Yeah.
I think we value those things. Maybe have a different perspective maybe than others who are fortunate enough to still have their parents, you know.
Right, and I think too another big point of how we feel about raising Ben and our lives together is that we met later in life. I mean, you were 32 and I was 39.
30 and 36.
Well, I was close. Whatever.
But yes,
but I mean, there was there was more maturity, I think, there, and we already kind of had an idea of wrongs and rights and what was important, and that really has made a difference, I think, and hopefully for Ben.
And not wanting to waste time.
Right.
Because your dad was in his final stages. My brother passed away the year we were dating. So I think that all just kind of sealed the deal of because we weren't going to get married for another year or so, because we'd only been dating 6 months when we got engaged.
Right.
And I just think some of those things just kind of solidified, why waste time? Life is short, yeah.
Well, did we miss anything? Is there anything you feel you want to say? Woo!
I don't.
No, just we're appreciative of this project, and
Yeah, we appreciate your participation.
we're
It's
excited to
great.
see the final products and to get to know some of our neighbors in a way we don't know them right now.
Yeah,
So.
that's.
I mean, it's
Interesting.
another opportunity
Right.
to hopefully connect
Right.
with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
It's-
you like to think if people are choosing to participate in this project, they probably share same
Right, yeah, and-
values and expectations and
Right.
concerns.
Right.
So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.